business. Today, we're going to go over these exact type of EINs that we are actually opening as far as what they are. They're 508 trusts. On top of that, you got a ministerial trust, which is a 508 ministerial business trust. So we're going to watch a couple of quick videos on that. And we need to get a little bit more clarity on exactly what these entities do so that we know when we're going to operate in them, which one we need to do within our own process. So it is going to come from different perspectives, but we're going to tie it all in at the end of it. And then we're going to do the EIN we're going to go back over the EINs section. And then I'm going to show you guys how it all comes together. Okay, well, this ministerial trust is for this. The business name trust is for this. The 98 number trust is for this. So we're going to get into that. Then we're going to come back to the IRS Gov page. So I already got.
Welcome back. This is your host, Jack McKay with the Read. We've got the Bulletproof Trust here. It's a private trust, and you can, once you get our package, you can make as many trusts as you want. You incur no income taxes if you use this trust. If you have a bank account, do whatever with this trust instead of your person, instead of your LLC, instead of your C Corp. If you use this instead, you do not incur income taxes. And I've explained before, it's just like the In God We Trust. They don't pay income taxes to what they pay up to. But that's not enough for some people. So let's go into the IRS saying, hey, that's great. And what it has here is everyone's heard of the 501c3, 5 plus 1, right? 6, C is the third letter, so that's 33. So it's really, 6 times 3, 666, So, and this is 33. It's just 501c3 puts you under, we, which is the name of the devil. So you don't want that. So, but they have a church, right? They have a trust. The In God We Trust. So here's the exception. It talks about the exceptions in here. Exceptions to 501c3, but basically what it's saying is, and there are good discussions on the topic. If you look up the code that talks about it, 508c1a, and what they call a free church. And here's a good, if you go and search that, click on this one right here, it brings you to this, and this is a pretty good topic. A pretty good discussion with the actual publications on it and how they relate and so on. So anyway, people are concerned that, hey, I operate in this trust and maybe I owe income tax or something. No. IRS has exceptions to 501c3. What it's saying is, basically, if you look it up in here, it says basically there are exceptions to having to do a 501c3 right here. The church, right? They're integrated auxiliaries and conventions or associations of churches. Okay, so it's like a ministry, Christian Ministries Trust, like the one I have, right? Okay, and how I recommend you name your trust and so on, right? So that's a little discussion over from the IRS supporting this trust and that you never would pay income taxes. So I don't understand. See, lawyers aren't allowed to tell anyone about this. Their license does not allow them to tell about this private legal information because they'd lose so much money and lose a lot of money, a lot of tax revenue. But here it is. So how much money have you paid in income taxes over your lifetime? And this is a few $100s, this trust? Seriously, I don't know what else I got to do to show people it's so easy to save so much money.
All right, so we got that perspective. So we understand that we are opening with that ministerial trust, and a lot of our trusts that we actually opened have been either religious assemblies, ministerial, sentient being. It has connotations of an actual type of trust. And so even within this one, we found out the meaning behind In God We Trust. So, that's a correlative one. Now I want to go over to this next video because you guys got to
Hi, Lee
understand
Phillips here.
how to fund
I want
this
to talk
trust.
about a topic. I'm going to say how to fund my trust, or how to fund a living revocable trust, how to get property into the trust. These are the questions that people ask, and this is the heart of your living revocable trust. The fact of the matter is, most people who get a living revocable trust, the family does not avoid probate like they think they're going to, because the trust doesn't own the assets. The trust has to own each asset that the dead person, you, oh, you're not the dead person, the dead person has to own the assets that the dead person was supposed to.
What do you say, y'all? Wait. I think you just had a blooper. Let's go.
Trust doesn't own the assets. The trust has to own each asset that the dead person, you, oh, you're not the dead person, the dead person has to own the assets that the dead person was supposed to be owning, because if the dead person's name is on the ownership, it has to go through probate. So the trick of the trust is we fund the trust, or we move the assets that you have to sign for. Now, you don't have to sign to sell a washer and dryer, but you have to sign to get into a bank account, or to sell a car, or to get into the brokerage account, or to get rid of a piece of real property. That's the big one. But those have to be transferred from ownership of individual to ownership of trust. And that's what we call funding the trust.
Thank
is
you.
moving these assets over into the trust. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's totally dependent upon the asset. And the assets are things that you might not think about. For example, ownership of your LLC, or your S corporation, or your family limited partnership, or whatever it is. Those are assets that require your signature to transfer. If you're dead, we got to probate them. So the little business becomes a critical aspect of the probate issue. And yet, most, even estate planning attorneys, don't even bother with the little business. Let's look at the assets that we have to have funded into the living revocable trust. There's, of course, the bank accounts and the brokerage accounts and the safe deposit box, the cemetery lots, the timeshares, the oil and gas shares, the water shares, the little business, the LLC, the corporation, the limited partnership, whatever it is, those all have to be there. What else needs to be there? Well, what do you sign your name for? In order to transfer the car, the boat, the motor home. Now I'm going to tell you that we can usually cheat on, it's not cheating, but there's a way around the car, and the boat, and the motor home. The motor vehicle division in all states has a way of transferring those titles without actually having to go through probate. But when you buy your next car or your next motor home, you buy it in the name of the trust. So we fund the trust with the current assets that we own. And then the trick is, you've got to think for the rest of your life, I'm not me anymore. I am a trustee. I do not take title. The member of my LLC is not me. It's my living revocable trust. And I don't know how many times I've told you this, but there are three elements to the living revocable trust's name.
What is it?
The name of the trust, the date of the trust, and the trustee's name. All three of those elements have to be on the signature card down to the bank for the bank account, for the safe deposit box. They have to be on the brokerage account. They have to be on the deed that transfers.
One more time, so we don't do this
trustee's
again.
name. All trust's name, the name of the trust, the date of the trust, and the trustee's name.
Okay, so we're going to the bank. We're opening a business trust account. Some of us have asked Tiffany time and time again about endorsements, about, when to use these UCC codes and all of this. All right, that's before you was in trust. All of that was before you were in trust and you were out there independent contracting with these agencies. Do you have to have that added security? So these UCC codes are meant for people that are not trust funded. Okay, so that's one thing that we have to understand. You have a lot of people that rely on UCC codes and thinks that they have status and nationality because they got an international filing. You are not one of those people. Okay, you are a person that has logical sense to know that there's no sense in me having to UCC 3-308 if it's in the form of a trust. Why does a trust that already has been established with a certification of trust and a
declaration of trust
and an indemnity agreement and a hold harmless agreement, why would it then need to do an additional endorsement when it's an entity? When does an entity even have an autograph? As you see, he says your signature. So what we do in front of our signature, where at the drop down box, it'll be, your name and print. Just put a /S/ in front of that, making that a signature is one thing you can do. So the owner of it is the Ministerial Trust, but the signature line says /S/ your name or your domestic trust. And then next to that, you just put your name and then put trustee and the date. What date? Which date? What day? What else? Now let's do this again so that we are clear.
You've got to think for the rest of your life, I'm not me anymore. I am a trustee. I do not take title. The member of my LLC is not me. It's my living revocable trust. And I don't know how many times I've told you this, but there are 3 elements to the living revocable trust's name. The name of the trust, the date of the trust, and the trustee's name. All 3 of those elements have to be on the signature card down at the bank for the bank account, for the safe deposit box. They have to be on the brokerage account. They have to be on the deed that transfers the piece of real property from you to the trust.
So what do you think? Now, everybody come off mute for a second. I got a question. What do you think the safe deposit box is for?
Assets.
What asset? What type of things? Those safe deposit boxes are real thin.
Bonds.
Bonds, which are what? Certificates, titles, deeds, things like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because you have to actually show the possession of the bank. Like, for instance, when people go and get a traditional mortgage, what happens is they never get their title, their deed in hand. Like, they never got that check in hand neither, did they? What happened is that you went into contract and you got a loan and they took your deed and put it in a safe deposit box so that they have actual possession of the title. So that's when you get to have the cause of having beneficial interest, because possession is 9/10 of the law. So for the length of the term of the loan that you signed up with, they have the bond of that deed inside of an escrow account. So either way it goes, they're getting paid by having possessionary rights. And then turn around and charge you interest for that. So the idea is, all right, Oscar owns a vehicle. He knows that he has to go fund his trust. He knows that this car can fund his trust. But he also knows that he's not in possession of his material goods. So he knows that he needs to go ahead and give the ownership of it off to the trust so that he can control it unlimitedly. So Oscar takes that title, that vehicle title, down to the bank, okay? And he establishes that account. And what he does is he makes a special deposit into his safety deposit box. And so the bank knows that they are the possessor of it. So now we can tap into the interest and start trading on our own conditions this bond that they would have traded and had already had I financed the vehicle.
Mm.
Okay. So let's go. We'll let him finish this out because, you know, he's very good at what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Then the trust doesn't have to own it. But the trust, the neighbor can't break into your house and sell your piece of property because that requires your signature on the deed. So when we're transferring real property, we have to have deeds from you to the trust. The trustee, technically the trustee holds the title. But funding the trust is critical. And the fact of the matter is most people don't fund their trust. I mean, it's huge. 2/3 of the trust, 3/4 of the trust, 9/10 of the people who get trusts, the family does not avoid probate because, one, the lawyer never told you to fund the trust, or he never did the trust, or he did 2 things, and oh, that's another issue. The lawyer had a schedule, and on the schedule he wrote down the bank account and the piece of property and everything went into the trust. Is that a legal transfer? Yes. Does it work? No. And that's another YouTube that I have made. And that we have to go through schedules on a trust. They don't work. Forget them. You have to go to the bank. You have to change the title on the car. You have to change the deed to the house. You have to actually physically do these things. Just listing them on the schedule will not work.
Okay, so now he's talking about real property. And this is something that you need to know. And this is really the debunking of the theory of the quick claim deed, okay? This is when a quick claim process comes into play. Terrell went and got her property. The property is paid for, but the deed is still in Terrell's name. Terrell needs to do a quick claim deed, give a value of consideration, and transfer it unto the name of her trust. Which trust? If it's paid for and it's all outright, where is it going? Where's it going, y'all?
The 98 trust.
All right. So now we're starting to see the flow of business. We know if we want to enter into commerce, we're supposed to use that ministerial trust with public assets, with acquiring them at public access. So, for instance, financing things and financing these sort of things could come into play with a ministerial trust. All right, you're automatically conveying it into a trust. So ownership and beneficial ownership have been established at the kick door because you came in and therefore the trust is responsible. So now we have to come back with that domestic trust because the domestic trust is the trustee of the ministerial trust, right? So it is the trustee's obligations to discharge that the ministerial trust has acquired through its signature. We understand them? So now that it's been conveyed and it's been discharged from the creditor, which is the domestic trust, now it can be conveyed into the 9(8) trust. Now it's completely out of commercial transactions. It's completely private property. So what we notice is that the simple elements of operating in a trust and not operating it in the capacity it's meant to be can get people all jacked up and sideways. You know, we have people that say they have tribal trust land, but yet they got it taken away because they can't pay taxes. That makes no sense to me. Because if you went and you financed some land, why is it in your tribal trust or your 9(8)? Because now you've brought your private into the public. Make sense to y'all? Need to go.
Hi, Lee Phillips here.
I think I'm going to visit Lee Phillips. We got some things to talk about.
An
He see dead people too, y'all.
irrevocable trust. And that's the trust that is not your standard estate planning trust. That's a trust that you've set up to handle life insurance, an irrevocable life insurance trust, an island. It is a trust that you've set up for your children under Section 2503 of the IRS Code. It is a trust, most likely though, that has resulted after Dad dies. When Dad dies, his living revocable trust becomes irrevocable. And you now are dealing with an irrevocable trust, not a revocable trust. The trust just changed its nature. It became its own entity. You had to get a tax ID number for it. Now, Mom and Dad, they may have a trust where one of them dies and the other one goes on as a revocable trust. But when they're both dead, or when Dad's single, he's dead, then it becomes an irrevocable trust. Or you could have a shelter trust, a marital trust, and a shelter trust, A, B, remember that sort of stuff? Lawyers don't count too high, so they have trust A, and they have trust B. B is an irrevocable trust. How do you end an irrevocable trust? However you got the irrevocable trust. Well, it has its own tax ID number. That means it's filing a 1041 tax return. You've been getting K-1s. There's been this income tax aspect to it. Now, you don't want to ever have the trust collect income, because if it actually pays income taxes, it has filed tax return 1041, but we want it to be a zero on the bottom of that. We want it to get rid of all of its income because the tax rate's horrific. But when we finally want to end it, all you do is take all of the assets out of the trust, and the trust will naturally do this because it says that the assets are to be divided into 4 shares and given 1 share given to each one of the 4 kids. So when all the assets have been distributed, the trust doesn't own anything. It files a final tax return, and officially the trust is dead. So all the assets are taken out of the trust, it files its final tax return, and the trust goes away.
So, talk about collapsing an estate into a living trust. That is what he just described. Collapsing your estate, your birth name, into your living trust. So, what's Tiffany got us doing? Tiffany got us going to do our gap accounting letters so that we could tie up old loose ends. So that we could go ahead and finally file that final 1041 on that estate. So that we can go ahead and collapse it. It doesn't exist anymore. This is the final return. We are returning this to sender in all entirety. We just rescinded our estate. So that means that this trust responsibility is to accept the debt of the estate and to discharge it. So the income for the trust didn't receive an income. The estate received the income. Okay, so the trustee is the one that administers on the benefit of the estate. So the trust was the one that was supposed to pay these bills and all these things. So if the trust goes to the bank and takes ownership of bank accounts, and then you do that transfer just like that on the signature card, and you do it on your 8832. Now the trust it gets conveyed into that trust, which we did on that tax form, okay? So now the trust is actually taking care of the business for the estate. So it didn't make it income. Then the estate came with its own income. It came with its own value. The trustee is responsible to make sure that the business gets handled for the care of the beneficiary. So the trustee was the one that paid this rent and paid this phone bill and paid this insurance and paid for the mortgage and paid for the business travel. I don't know what your trustee does, okay? No, mine does. And what happens is at the end of the year, when my estate has to do taxes on 1040s, okay, which could happen to you that still are occupied with a social security number in employment, you have to do your 1040, right? So when that is entered in as income, the trust has to come back with the 1041 to show the outcome of how the funds were distributed. So, and then we're jumping into a business trust account, and we're also jumping into investment banking. Okay, so I'm done listening to him. Let's go talk about this other part.
Trust after
Get out
they
of
die,
here.
it could go on for.
You already know too much about dead people. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. You back?
Look, here's the thing that I think everybody's getting confused. This is what I'm getting. Think of it like parenthood. You have kids. Who is in control of the children? The parents.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids are the beneficiary, the parents are the beneficiary, the kids are the trust. So you're protecting them. So anything that has to go with them, the parents are dealing with themselves, externally and internally. That's how I think about it. Like, the parents are the caretakers of the kids. So therefore, they are the beneficiary of the account. All bills, all whatever goes to the parents, and basically the kids don't do anything because the kids can't do anything or shouldn't be doing anything. Does that kind of make sense?
Makes perfect sense, because now we're talking about parent corporations. You know, for instance, every county operates on a tri-county level. So you could be in a particular county that is actually the child of the two counties next to it. So that's important to know. But as far as dealing with parent corporation, you have to look at your citizenship too, because the United States would be your parent corporation and you're a subsidiary. So what we want to do is we need to change that parent corporation. Hopefully one of your ancestry would make complete sense, since we're dealing in estates and trusts.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just getting confused with all these. I think, I'm not trying to call nobody stupid. I think the terminology is confusing a lot of people. But you have people, we got to think about it like this. Treat every situation like a child's situation. Like, how easy is it for kids to comprehend simple things? Don't make this any harder than what it needs to be. Like I said, I don't get everything right now, but that's kind of how I put it. I put it in like terms of what I can use. Parenting terms.
It's all business.
It's business. It's all commerce.
Get out of thinking that the body of the document is the same body we walking around in when it's not. We want to make things so personal, like it's got to do with us. To be a secure party is to be a trustee.
And it's that simple, you know.
That's simple. That is that simple. It's minding your business. That's it. Minding your business. And it's that simple, and it's that all. But, you know, that gets tricky too, because you think of business, you think of it corporations, every incorporation, right? Through the Secretary of State, the state itself is the parent corporation, because that's who you went into contract with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
a lot harder being citizen.
Why am I over here contracting with the Secretary? I don't need no authentications from him.
Exactly.
I don't need him to change my corporation race designation.
Then that's the importance of the red thumb too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a seal. Mm-hmm. So once you have that red thumb, can nobody question you on shit.
Yeah, but when are you supposed to use that red thumb? Because as a trust that is, as a trustee that's operating in the capacity of a trust that's operating in the capacity of a trustee, you have to remember that in the public, you are operating in the capacity of a trustee. That's what we're missing. The ministerial trust and the domestic trust is still not you. So you would not put any type of biological autographs on it. That is for the 9-8 trust. When you're conveying things into the 9-8 trust, do you put your blood seal on that? When you are actually coming from the living as a creditor with certain bonds that you send from that actual trust, because remember, it all received everything. We died in the will and testamentary class. So now we're just doing the IRS elections of the paperwork that we've already done. Okay, so we have to remember it's business. You are not none of these trusts. You are nothing but the beneficiary of the 9(8) trust. You're the one that is to enjoy all of the reward of all of the assets free and clear title. That is it. That is where you come into play. Over there, you don't come into play as a natural being in commerce. You are not are you a trust? Like you a piece of paper that you got filed at the courthouse? Yeah, no. So you are a trust that is still a trustee. Your only things are you are a trust and you're a trustee. We're talking about the ministerial trust. You're still coming in as an 84 EIN as a trust still because the secure party is the trustee of that. So do you see the funnel? The secure party is the trustee, the domestic trust is the trustee of the ministerial trust. It don't get no simpler than that. So you got 1, 2, 3. You got 3 entities before they figure out that you a real celestial being. So
I mean, unfortunately, we were put in the position that we have to have all this bullshit paperwork in order to identify us in the same sense.
hey, a trust will not fail for the lack of a trustee.
It will not.
So
I start, you know what I'm saying? People just put it in shit that they understand.
Jax. That's what I'm gonna do.
Want to talk about today.
It's like I said, I don't get everything, but put it in
Let
shit.
us finish this so we can get to class.
I'm sorry. I'm shut up.
Right, you are passionate today on Valentine's Day. All right.
And the business trust, just on a basic maintenance level, the paperwork that you got to go through, and just the simple differences. With the state-sanctioned entities, which we call the corporations, the LLCs, the partnerships, you have all these requirements that you have to go through with the Secretary of State. And you probably already maybe know some of these things, but you've got to do your name registration, you got to do your listing of directors, your officers. If it's an LLC, you've got your manager of the LLC. And then you also have to have a resident agent. In addition to that, you also have annual records you do with the corporations and to a lesser extent with the LLC. And then also, at least in the state of California, you have to pay a fee to the Franchise Tax Board. It's called a franchise tax, which is basically a privilege tax for doing business in the state of California. It has nothing to do with whether the business is making any money or not. It's just a privilege
It's like
tax.
you want to use my name,
So these
pay
are the
me
requirements
what
that
you
you
owe me.
have with the corporations and LLCs. And you also have this maintenance that goes on with the corporations and LLCs. Every year, you've got to do your annual filings. You've got to update your paperwork. You got to have this resident agent one more time. You got to pay all these fees. And again, the franchise tax. Now, in contrast, what we advocate, what we like to use, and that is the business trust in contrast to those entities. Okay, with the business trust, you just do it once. You get it set up. You don't have any registration with the Secretary of State. There is no franchise taxes to pay. There are no obligated record keeping. You have resident agent. There's no franchise tax to pay. It's a completely free form, if you will, type of organization that you get up for holding title. Now, one of the other main differences between the corporations, LLCs, and the business trust, and that is the visibility factor. Because of the fact that you've got the corporations and LLCs registered for the Secretary of State, you've got this visibility factor that can cause you risk. Because of the fact that emails, your addresses, phone numbers, names, and so on are all listed with the Secretary of State. So anyone can go to the Secretary of State database, look up the information on Santa Fe Corporation, and they can find out who was the person that incorporated the company, who is the president, who are the other people involved in the company, not necessarily the stockholders, but the organization itself.
That's too much identification for me.
The point here is that the internet has changed everything with asset search. So your corporations and LLCs, they're all easy to look up. In the old days, it was difficult to look this stuff up. And this is one of the reasons why we like using the business trust. So the differences between these two different types of organizations or different categories, if you will, is that you've got the state regulations that tell you how you've got to run your corporation and LLC. And then you've got the business trust where they're completely up to you, how you want to design them, how you want to operate them. There's no restrictions on them. Corporations and LLCs do have state restrictions on them. In summary here, we advocate using trust structures, trust instruments for holding title. So whether it's to your business, whether it's to your real estate, your antique collection, what have you, we want to take those assets, we want to put them, they want to have their own legal title, if you will. They want to have them separate from you yourself personally, but we don't want them on the public radar screen. So those are the differences, if you will, between the state-sanctioned entities, the corporations, LLCs, and the trust instruments. So you got two different ones. You got maintenance, you got franchise taxes on one side. You don't have any of that on the other side.
Signs up for all
We like
that
that visibility
taxation.
factor, that
People are
low maintenance
crazy.
that we have, or actually no maintenance, if you will, with the trust instruments. So if you enjoyed this video, you're welcome to share it, and we'll be in touch with you again very soon. Thanks very much.
Ain't that some funny stuff there? No, we don't want to listen no more.
It makes it, but what he's saying makes sense. Like, think about anybody watch sports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, think about like the whole Antonio Brown situation.
Yeah.
He's branding himself. So basically, anybody who uses his likeness has to pay him or they're going to be sued. It's the same thing. Nobody can use your likeness without your permission, if you even give them that permission.
Mm.
So, like, in a sense, that's kind of the same thing of having the trust and all that stuff.
So wait a minute. So we're looking at things in that aspect, because when you do go and open an LLC, right? When you go through the Secretary of State, they kind of got a nice little package for you. So it's really catered for the people that don't really care. They just want to have what they can get on by. But in that package, they actually have a trademark copyright that you have to file in select states. Some of them don't let you do it, and you shit it up on a state auction site. But anyways, they got a copyright trademark inside of there, and they do a publication. They put people on notice. Even when you do your name change, the public has to be put on notice of what's going on. Trust is private. It does not get put on notice. So we know that we did a common law copyright. We know that we did our publishing. Well, hopefully y'all went back after everybody decided to do their own thing and did your publishing of your copyright. Another thing is that if all of the intellectual property, all of the property was discussed on the private security agreement, right? Mm-hmm. And the private security agreement is an attachment of each trust. So even though we don't specifically incorporate the state in everything that we're doing and all the assets that we're doing, because it's not connected to our person, it's already was illustrated in the private security agreement, where you gave the extraction for the recording in the county. Okay, so that includes all of that property on that property attachment list and the private security agreement, whichever one. Commercial security agreement is still an abstract of either one of those documents. Okay, so now let's say that you noticed on your LexisNexis that these people who are over here usurping your trust res, because you've assumed all responsibility and all assets with indemnity of all of that property of the estate, right? So now you've come to find out that, what is this? I got an inquiry. I didn't authorize this inquiry. So as a trustee, I have to defend the estate. I have to discharge this and settle and close this. Okay, because this is messing up the credibility of the trust. I'm not performing as a trustee. So in that essence, we've already done that in the private when we did those common law copyrights and we did all that. We did the private side of this. It's business. This is all business and private business and asset protection. So that if you did see, okay, such and such came up, now you know you don't even have the right to even use this name. This is trust property. What's wrong with you? And then, or how about this? What is this doing on the internet? You don't have the right to just put, this is private information of a trust. You have to deduct that, because all things that are in the public is for public display. It is public property. So if you have a person, that's how your criminal charges gets publicized and you get blasted on what is that, Cracked Smack magazine from the gas station. Or this is how your credit report is found and your background is formed, because of the fact your person is a public entity. So all things public must give notice. You have to give notice of public publications, right?
You're made public from birth.
Exactly. So that's why we have to change the parent corporation, because once you change the parent corporation of your entity, it becomes private. That no longer can, you can no longer be encroached upon with what is happening with your person, because your person is property of a trust and it is guarded. It is a secured party.
Yep. That makes perfect. Like I said, I get this.
Jax, did you get your ministerial trust yet?
No, I'm still.
Okay.
So
Text me, because I'm going to do it right here, because I'm going to go ahead and do the domestic name change trust, right? And then after this, because I'm doing this one for another student, and then text me the addresses. I need your physical address, okay? Then text me the social, okay? And then text me the 98 number.
Okay.
Address, because I think we did Peru, right? So just text that to me so I can pause the screen. I will edit this and upload this for my charitable works of this trust. So, all right.
Give me a moment.
All right.
Okay, so now what we're doing is we're creating the EIN for the birth name trust, okay? This is going to still be recognized as a trust. And so let's go ahead and get into, here we go. So we're going to begin our application. We're doing a trust. All right. What kind of trust is this? Who can tell me? When does a trust become an irrevocable trust? We just watched that.
When a person dies.
Trustee dies.
Okay, so we're going to go down to trust, all others. All right, so now we're talking about 1041. So we're going to hit continue. Tell us about the responsible party. So I'm going to answer the responsible party on this, and then I'll be right back. And I'm going to hit continue. Who's the trustee? Who's the trustee?
The secure party.
The secure party.
Grand Rising. Now, let's hit continue. All right, what's the mailing address? Now, what's the mailing address for the trust? It says down here, do you have a U.S. address that is different from above? So, yeah, because our trust, let's get out of here. Okay, so this is how it should look with your foreign address here. Yes, we do have another address. Now we click over, okay? Now this is where you're going to put your domestic address. So let me put that in there. Then after I put it in there, we're gonna hit continue. Boom. You're gonna accept the database version. Okay, now we're gonna hit on the next page and it's gonna say legal name of trust. What's the legal name of the trust? It ain't Lamoille Maxim. So the legal name of the trust would be what? That of the who? What's the name of the trust? Yeah.
You don't put where you're born at.
No. Where are you located? Where are you located? Now, where you reside, where is this located? What county are you going to file this at? What's going on, right? What county is that? That's Stanford?
Yeah, Stafford. Stafford.
Okay. All right, date trust funded. Let's throw this off. What are the 3 things you must know on your signature card when signing as the trustee?
The date and
the name, time,
and the trustee, the trustee. Yeah.
Okay, so this is talking about the date it was funded, right? So how do we fund a trust with the assets, right?
Right.
So the day that you're gonna go to open this business trust account and convey an asset into it is the date that it was funded. So, Oscar, when are you going to go and fund your trust? What are you going to fund it with? Because this is going to determine how you're going to do that. So let's do this for March, and we're going to do 2020. Continue. All right. No, we do not expect any employees. Employees. Yes, we want to receive our number. All right. So I'm going to pause that really quick and go through this stuff. And then so I can get his number and send it to him without y'all trying to get his information. Okay, Oscar, have you tried to do this already? Today?
Yeah,
last 24 hours?
Yeah, no. Well, that's 24 hours?
Give me the number. Now, when you get this number right here, that means that you've tried to establish something using that same 9-digit account number. And you can't get only but one per period. Okay, so you get that number right there. The other option is that they're not matching your information with something in their system, rather it be your address or however. But more likely I see one-on-one. That means that you've attempted to, you're on here within the last 24, 48 hours. Okay, so in any event, that's the walkthrough on how you get this particular EIN number. Let's see, Ministerial Trust. Let's go for this one. Jax, did you text me?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me pull that up. All right, so Ministerial Trust. Let's start here. Back to the beginning. Begin application. All right, so on the Ministerial Trust, hold on, you gotta text me the name of your Ministerial Trust too.
Oh.
Okay, now, Ministerial Trust, I'm gonna give you a second to do that. I'll wait for it to come and I'll be right back. For everybody else that is doing their domestic trust, that this is how it should be. It should be that birth name, that secure creditor name, and that foreign address, the same address that you put on that 98 number. It ain't time to be creative like Tiffany and start enterprising. Okay, y'all are in the fetal position here. All right, now let's go back over to this. So, Ministerial Trust.
What's the TR mean in your name?
Trust.
Oh, okay. Yeah, slow. My bad.
So, option for Ministerial Trust is view additional types, including tax exempt and governmental. Now you select that, and then we're going to come over here, and it's going to give you a series of events. We're going to be a church-controlled organization. So what we are creating here is a 508, and we'll look at some information on that 508 when I'm done here. But basically, the 508 is in the first video, says that this has the same recognition of a 5013C. It's just unincorporated. So it has a sovereign immunity to it. Okay. So please confirm your selection, confirm the section of the church-controlled organization as the type of structure applying for an EIN. So what is it? A church-controlled organization is a branch of a church. Men's or women group, religious school, mission society, or youth group. A church-controlled organization can be any of the following: a church below college level, affiliate with a church or operated by a religious order. A mission society sponsored by or affiliated with one or more churches or church denominations if more than half of the society's activities are conducted in or directed at a person in foreign countries. What? Y'all on a mission? Y'all some missionaries coming in from Canada and Peru? That's what y'all doing. What? Y'all foreign like that? That's what y'all doing. You ain't got no social. You just got 98 number. You're trustee of the entity. Wow. Y'all have come a long way in your mission statement. You know, y'all even got credentials from the Universal Life Church, declaring who you are. You got certificates and things. A group engaged in an exclusive religious activity of any religious order. You know, so that is what it is. Let's keep moving. Why is this church-controlled organization requesting EIN? Well, of course, because we need to be able to do commerce. There's no other reason why we would be over here being all in domestic and foreign at the same time. We got to figure out how do we come in from our foreign capacity into the public for banking purposes. All right. Now, tell us about the responsible party. So we know the responsible party is the estate, and it's going to be using the actual account number for that estate. And we know that choose one, that you're an authorized member officer. Okay, this takes us back to the actual, what is that? What form is that, Terrell, where we selected D as the option? Wasn't that the 2848? Where the position was that of an officer of the organization? Right? Isn't that what that said? So that's why we selected D on that 2848. Okay, so let me go ahead and fill this out, and then we'll go to the next page. And we move along. Okay, so the next page is going to open up, and it's going to say, where's the church-controlled organization physically located? Okay. Now, this is when things get flipped around from the domestic trust. And I want you guys to get comfortable when operating in different trusts, because it's going to be the reflection of the last one. And you need to know this going into doing the 1099s, because when we go through that, you'll see, okay, they just flipped my shit real quick. And I got to know how this works for me. Because on that one, we put in the foreign address first, right? And then put in the United States address on the next page. This time it's going to be the flip. So this is where we're going to put the domestic address. This is where we're going to put the domestic address. So let me go ahead and put in that information. So the street is going to be, because this is where it gets different, and this is why it says do not enter a P.O. box. For military addresses, click here. Did y'all just read that sentence?
Yeah, my military address is my house address, if you want to put that.
No, we're turning that military address into a ecclesiastical jurisdiction by creating it into a ministry. So hand me that house address, Jax. So then it's going to say after you enter the address, should the mail be directed to a specific person or department with your organization? So what's y'all's care of name? There's a trick question. What's your care of name?
That's a fuck. I don't know. I'm not even gonna answer that.
You don't know? Because I thought that you had a ministerial certificate, said you were an ordained minister. What is the name of that minister? Isn't that minister the same as the trustee?
So
all right, so then yes, we do have another address. All right, so then accept the database version. Now we're on this page, which is the page after that. What is the mailing address of the organization? That's going to be your foreign address. Let me put that in here. So it's going to be your foreign address right here. State. All right, so you put in your foreign address here. Then you hit continue. All right, now it's going to ask you for the legal name of the church-controlled org. What's the name of your ministry?
I would name my
name that is connected or associated with any type of person. So we ain't got no L's in it. We ain't got no religious connotation to it. It's a generic name.
Oh, okay.
Ministerial trust. Because
okay.
If you look at mine, right?
Fountain of Youth.
Look at mine.
I don't say fountain of youth.
Fountain of Youth. Well, I'll show this to you when we end the video, but y'all see what mine is in that Dropbox video. Go look at how mine is. All right, back to you. All right, so fountain of youth. Stop clicking on it.
I know it's generic, but that's the best I can come up with.
That's fine. Ministerial. Trust. We want to make sure we put ministerial trust at the end of it. All right. It's in St. Louis, Missouri. Church control operation with start date is now, is when we're starting this. Doesn't go off funding. It's a business. It acquires funding throughout the fiscal. All right. Tell us about the church organization. Does your business own a motor vehicle, highway motor vehicle? No. No, we don't have none of this. So you have no reason to come and ask us for any type of fucking taxes, because that's all these questions are asking you. Do you want to accept paying taxes? All right, we want to receive our letter online. Pause. I'm about to open up some of his information. When it opens up the information on the next page, it'll say summary of your information, okay? Make sure that you save that as a PDF. How do you save it as a PDF? You're gonna go to the menu dots at the top of the web page, hit print. When the printer opens, destination, save as PDF, save, and put it into your IRS elections or EIN folder. This is the information. This is what your SS4 would look like if it was digitized. So you want to keep that, because you might open up 3 other entities and be like, when the hell did that shit open? I don't even know how to sign. So you want to make sure that you keep that. All right, let me put you over here. I'll pop you in here. And number. This is what it should say. So it should say the name of your ministerial trust, your actual minister name, which is still the trustee, and the address of that 498 trust. Okay. Now on that confirmation page that I printed before, it shows the name of the trustee. Okay. So the name of the trustee is important, but that's also in the certification of trust as well. So that's why when you go to open up the business trust account, you have to bring the EIN and the certification of trust, because without the certification of trust, these people just know that you have an EIN number, but they don't even know what kind of trust it is. So you got to that's what's going on in that ministerial certificate of trust. You see that. And inside that ministerial Dropbox, it also shows you how to transfer trust property into the trust. Okay, so we got to get in the habit of, if we don't own anything, and we only control it, we need to go ahead and place this somewhere where it could be secured and out of our possession. So 26 U.S. Code, subsection 508, special rules with respect to section 501c3 in organizations. It says new organizations must notify a secretary that they are applying for recognition of section 501c3 status, except as provided in subsection C. So an organization organized after October 9th, 1969 shall not be treated as an organization described in section 5013C. Unless it has given notice to the secretary in such manner as the secretary by regulation prescribed that it is applying for recognition of such status, or for any period before the giving of such notice, if such notice is given after the time prescribed by the secretary by regulations for giving notice under this section. Presumption that organizations are private foundations, except as provided in subsection C. Any organization, including an organization in existence on October 9th, 1969, which is described in section 5013C, and which does not notify the secretary at such time and in such manner as the secretary may by regulations prescribed, that this is not a private foundation, shall be presumed to be a private foundation. Now, did you hear what that said? So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna bust it down in common folks in language here in a second. Mandatory exemptions, mandatory acceptations. So I'm just all tongue tied today. Mandatory exceptions, subsections A and B shall not apply to churches, their integrated auxiliaries, and conventions or associations of churches, or B, any organization which is not a private foundation defined in section 509A, and the gross receipts of which in each taxable year are normally not more than $5,000. Exceptions by regulations. The secretary may by regulations exempt to the extent and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed in such regulations from the provisions of subsections A or B or both. A, educational organizations described in section 170B 1A, and B, any other class of organization with respect to which the secretary determines the full compliance with the provisions of subsections A and B is not necessary to the efficient administration of the provisions of this title relating to private foundations. Okay, so disallowance of certain charitable, etc. Deductions, gift or bequest to an organization subject to section 5013C, tax, no gift or bequest made to an organization upon which the tax provided by section 507C has been imposed shall be allowed as deduction under section 170, blah, blah, blah. Y'all can go read that on your own. If such gift or bequest is made by any person after notification is made under 507A, or B, by a subsequent contributor defined in 507D2, it is his taxable year, which includes the first day on which action is taken by such organization, which culminates in the imposition of tax under 507C in any subsequent tax year. Gift or bequest to taxable private foundation, section 4947, trust. No gift or bequest made to an organization shall be allowed as a deduction under section 170. And y'all can go read all of this. If such gift or bequest is made to a private foundation or trust described in section 4947, in a taxable year for which it fails to meet the requirements of subsection E, determined without regard to subsection E2, or B, to any organization in a period for which it is not treated as an organization described in 5013C by reason of subsection. Exception, paragraph 1 shall not allow if the entire amount of unpaid portion of the tax imposed by section 507C is abated by the secretary under section 507G. All right, so y'all already got that form, which is affidavit of foreign tax exemption. Of course, it just said right here that we can get the recognition of having a 5013 foundation, federally tax-exempt organization, but not incorporating with the Secretary of State to do so. So what we did is we went and got a ministerial trust, which is recognized as a 508, which is private. It's not incorporated with the Secretary of State, but we want to have our tax exemption. So we know we need to go back, pull out that form that says affidavit of tax exemption. We're going to put our ministerial trust on there along with the trustee, and then we're going to send it to be apostilled to who? Who is going to? The state's credit of not having to pay taxes. So of course, it's going to go to our domiciling state secretary. He's going to apostille it and receive it. You're going to give notice of that too. Also, you're going to give him a fiduciary. Why not? He's over here operating under this business capacity trust. He ain't your parent corporation, but some things you need him to do. So you need to specify in the actual letter of appointment. Now, on top of that, after he receives it and then he sends you back his notarized copy, now we're going to go authenticate that, because now we're going for federal tax exemption inside of a state corporation municipality. So after he authenticates it and sends it back, then we're going to go authenticate it. And that is how you take a private 508 trust that is a ministerial trust that is operating in the public under a business trust account, and you get it federally tax exempt. And once that's authenticated, it goes with the IRS elections for this entity, because all of these are entities. So you need to let them know that you need to send them to their actual tax exempt organization the proof of this authentication that you have got credit and you are not liable to taxation or any encumbrances on this trust. It is private and everything has already been identified in the UCC. Thank you and have a good day. That's all you got to do. Then you wait on them to send you your tax exemption number, and there you go. So I want you guys to get into that 49, what is it? 4947. I posted 3 PDFs inside of the WhatsApp. Okay, that's actually telling you about this particular trust that you open and how to operate it. So today we talked about what kind of trust we have, what's the benefits of it, what makes it private, how we do our signature endorsements when we're doing signature cards, how we convey actual assets into the trust and fund the trust. So we, as a collective in a cohesive group right here, next time I see everybody, we should be past banking, what is that, business trust account, right? So we should be moving off now, steering this tribal ship. I'm about to jump off in a life reserve. So.
Don't jump off, sis. We need you.
Yeah, that's why this shit is on record for the record.
Hold on, I'm still going in and out.
No, I hear you going in and out. I said, oh, shit, you gotta pull some of that Ethernet out your spiritual self and get your Wi-Fi together. So, yeah, I'll hear you, but you know what I'm saying. So it's time for us to wrap these gaps up. We're done talking about gap, how that works. You got the gap manual to talk about that, the GAAP and the GAAP. Okay, that's going to connect you over to actual secure transactions. So we're redeeming, we're paying on the debts so that we could do this final tax return on this estate and settle and close that estate. Okay, so we've already collapsed it in the public. We put everybody on notice that this is an estate. We changed the name. We put it in this living trust. The IRS don't know that. They still think you occupied in employment. They still wait. All they got is in the income. They don't have no outcome. The outcome is that this has been collapsed in a living trust, and this is the last return you're gonna get for this estate. Period. Point blank. If you ain't ready to make that move, then we might need to organize our employments, because that's what's happening. All right, now anywhere you go, now it is lawful for you to use that W-8 bin for banking purposes as a foreign person. Okay, that's it and that's all. So we learned how to do that. So next time we're gonna get back, everybody go do an assessment of your financial inventory is what you should be working on too. Figuring out who have you been doing business with for the last 3 years.